I miss you, man. I feel like I don't get to see you that often. Usually it's a phone call or a text message. So I'm glad I at least get to, it's weird because of all the social distancing. I actually now get more FaceTime with you than I normally would. So I'll take it.
I'm getting a lot more FaceTime with a lot of my friends. It's weird how that works.
Yeah.
And I got to ask the question everyone at home is wondering right now. People are setting up their home studios for all these interviews. And generally I see bookshelves or something like that. You went wine glasses.
Well, there was only like a slight adjustment, but yeah, the wine glasses, and there's a decanter that's up there. Look, and look, I know where you're broadcasting from, which is, in kind of Sonoma County. So I know you can appreciate the passion that I have for it, but I made sure I moved the plant. So it looks like I'm, kind of cool and hip. I don't even know if that's cool or hip, but I did move that over, ready to go.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm always impressed, man. Like I've been watching a lot at home of CNBC. By the way, kudos, and I know you and I are here to talk about sports, but kudos to that team over there. I mean, I've been watching hours of their coverage. Between all the remote broadcasters that they have, all the reports, all the changes that they're doing throughout the course of the day, really, really impressive. So whoever's kind of overseeing what they're doing over at CNBC, man, 2 thumbs up. It's pretty cool to see, but it resonated with me because all their anchors that are broadcasting from home, man, they got some sweet setups there. And I've seen some cool ones online too, with like the huge, 80, 70 inch TVs in the background. I saw like a green screen that someone had set up in their living room.
Those people are showing off. Those people are showing off.
I'm just jealous.
It's funny you bring that up. I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of the home studio in the last 2 weeks, I guess the accelerated evolution. But first and foremost, let's talk about the hard stuff. Yeah. We are recording this on Thursday, the 26th of March. So, 2 weeks in a day from, I don't mean to sound hyperbolic, but from when the sporting world completely went on pause.
Yeah.
You were in a very unique position. It was arguably the busiest week of your year, right in the middle of the Pac-12 tournament down in Las Vegas. So tell me a little bit about when you I'm assuming you landed in Vegas that Tuesday.
Yeah.
So from when you touched down in Sin City, from when you were eventually wheels up, 48 hours later?
Thursday morning. It was wild because there was so much uncertainty that was happening. And obviously the women's tournament for the Pac-12 network is the week prior in Vegas, and all things were really smooth and everyone did a great job on that side. But you'd heard the reports about FS1 not sending their remote crew jack to Vegas to the Big East tournament, weren't exactly sure what the Big Ten network was doing. And we were in line. I mean, this is like our big event. We own most of the games for the men's tournament. So, our brass had made the decision, and I thought they did an awesome job. I mean, we got there to our set. I landed, like you said, on a Tuesday. We had some meetings throughout the course of the evening, watched some practice and shoot arounds, and I was on the set and I'm looking, and the Clorox wipes were all over. They were joking. They had actually like a hand sanitizer dispenser, like no joke, 3 feet from the desk. Which everyone was like, oh, that's specifically for me. And I'm not a germaphobe, but the last couple days, and obviously the last few weeks, but heading into that tournament, I was definitely concerned about health and safety with all the fans that were going to be there.
Because at that point there was, as of Tuesday night, there was conversation like, hey, eventually maybe the NBA is going to go fanless. Obviously LeBron was made famous for saying, I'm not going to play. And then backpedaled a couple days later. So, but at that point you're thinking, okay, we're going to play this tournament and then kind of see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and on day one was probably the most unique day, Jack, that I've had at Pac-12 Network the last 8 years. I mean, heck, I would say maybe the most unique day that I've ever had in my career when you consider just the amount of volume that we're doing on air. So we have 4 games on the network. We're doing pregame shows, halftime shows, fill shows in between every single game, and then the wrap-up show at the end of the night. So just the volume of day one typically is pretty heavy, but throughout the course of the day, I mean, everyone's on Twitter, you're getting text messages from everyone. I have some friends that work at some other networks that are involved in sports, and there was concerns obviously with Big Ten and Hoiberg and the situation, with Nebraska. So those text messages are coming in. You're seeing those reports online.
And this is Wednesday night.
This is Wednesday. This is Wednesday, like all day, during the course of the day, which is really the crazy thing. I mean, and look, Oregon State and Utah was the first game that we had on of the tournament on Pac-12 Network, and it was an amazing game, and Tinkle to Lucas, the game-winning three. I mean, it was awesome. But as the game's unfolding, typically, Jack, and you know this because you obviously have been following sports your entire life, day one of the conference tournament typically isn't the most crowded and the most jam-packed. So you don't expect, a packed T-Mobile arena. So, at least on day one, I get an opportunity a lot of times to sit courtside. Well, for that first game in that first half, I'm sitting courtside, actually a couple seats down for the Tinkle sisters. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a dude who's 2 rows behind me and he's coughing. And I don't know. I mean, I think we're all hypersensitive now. Like there's a difference between a little tickle, or maybe you just kind of swallowed something the wrong way, or, that dry cough that they're talking about, or the phlegmy cough, not to get too gross, but you don't know. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't want to sit courtside. I'm good. So the entire day I sat on our set at the desk and just watched the games, which was an awesome vantage point anyway, but it's creeping into your head. And as the day unfolds and you're seeing the stuff with Hoiberg, the stuff obviously with the NBA, which I think was the big pillar to fall there. And I think everything started to unravel at that point. It was crazy.
That was happening while tournament games were being played. So you're getting that news probably while you're on air, while you're filling between games.
So we had, so the first announcement was, at least from a Pac-12 perspective, Jack, was when the league had decided not to allow fans on day number 2. So that came, there were some conversations that were happening. So we played our first 2 games, the Oregon State-Utah game and then the Arizona-Washington game. So we're on air at that point. And before we went on air, there was a conversation that we had where we thought it was a possibility, and it looked like the announcement was going to come in the 3rd game, which was Cal-Stanford. Well, when we're on air, producers, kind of get in my ear and they're like, no, we're doing this in our show at the end of the show. So the last block heading into that Stanford game, we made the announcement on air that there were not going to be fans allowed on day number 2 of the tournament. And at that point we had known, and like going back to the NBA thing, that's when the NBA says no more season, they're suspending it. That's when I think things got fast-tracked a little bit. We saw the NCAA say no fans, potentially for the NCAA tournament. We knew that was going to happen. And once those 2 announcements went down, it was just inevitable, at least in my mind, no fans on day 2. And then you start thinking a little bit, maybe there's no games the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's crazy. So Adam Silver was that first domino.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday night was crazy. Thursday morning is when things got real. Conference after conference started canceling their tournaments. You had to have woken up Thursday morning, getting dressed, ready to go, put the suit on, did the hair.
Hair, no makeup at that point.
At that point, well, you went to bed with makeup the night before. At that point,
always be ready. Be a good Boy Scout. No.
At that point, are you thinking like 50-50 this thing gets canceled?
So it's funny you mentioned that. We obviously left day 1 and we knew no fans on day 2. Yeah. And there was a few of us walking out of the arena heading back to the hotel. And I had just thrown it out there to our guys to say, hey, what do you think? 50-50, 70-30. And there was a lot of different takes on what was going to happen. And I will say this, the conference, for people who, I've seen some things written about the league and making decisions and that sort of deal. Jack, the Pac-12 had been in conference with the CDC for months. They'd obviously been in contact with local health officials in Las Vegas, and they had really set up T-Mobile with a lot of amenities like the hand sanitizers, the Clorox wipes, the whole deal. So they were, the sanitizer machines, they were all over the arena. So there was that base level of thought behind the decision, and they were obviously clear to play. But to your point, on Wednesday night, we just didn't know because everything is so fast. Now, in hindsight, like there wasn't really much of a decision to be made, right? No, fast forward 2 weeks and we go like, are we really debating this? But in the moment, you are.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because 2 weeks right now, from where we're sitting, looking back, it's like obviously you got to cancel. Everyone's got to cancel.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I remember thinking, is the Big East really going to play a whole slate of games?
Yeah. That was the wild thing. At that point, Jack, because that was the Thursday, we had known, like when I got up, like I woke up and this thing is going off, and we just realized, hey, like there's no games, we're not playing. And the other thing that was pretty interesting was, we've been doing this tournament for a few years now at Pac-12 Network. This is my 8th season with the network, and there's never been a meeting for talent on day 2 of the tournament.
Yeah,
Before we left the arena on day 1, there was an email that went out and said 10 a.m. all talent inside the green room, inside T-Mobile, and we're going to meet. So at that point, everyone had known that when we're walking to the arena, to your point, I wasn't even really suited and booted, ready to go, because I knew there was going to be games. I had to go back and get suited because we ended up doing a hit that was updated, with Larry Scott, that was updated on the decision-making process and those types of things. But you just don't know. And circling back, like you said, in hindsight, no brainer. But when you talk about health and safety, that is by far the most important thing, but we don't have the details, right? There are still people in this country, which is just insane to me, that aren't even taking this as seriously as they should. Just rewind 2 weeks. We didn't have many cases in the United States. No. Obviously the testing wasn't there. This seemed like a global problem that was not a problem in the United States. And now all of a sudden it is. And I think once Gobert tests positive, Mitchell test positive, and they said, the NBA goes, no, we're not doing this because we're worried about the health. It just made sense for everyone else to follow suit. So I actually applaud Adam Silver in a lot of ways. And obviously, Larry Scott had to make a difficult decision along with the conference brass, but, with the health and safety of players in mind, that was the right call.
So you get on a plane Thursday, 4 days too early? 4 days earlier than you?
Yeah. So I was set to fly out Sunday morning to do selection Sunday.
Sure.
And Jack, you're as big a sports fan as I know. And I know you get geeked up, a Gonzaga guy getting ready for the tournament. You and I were talking about this before the conference tournaments even.
When we had that conversation, which was like late February.
Yeah.
That feels like it was 6 months ago now.
Yeah. I can't even tell you. I don't even know what day it is. I'm waking up now and you're just kind of in la la land.
For those who don't know, I went to Gonzaga. And so I had my book it.
Way in advance. He's ready.
I was ready to go. I was wondering if Yam was going to be there. I was wondering if there was going to
be. I didn't know. Hopefully, with God, knock on wood, I could say it now. We definitely would have had from the Pac-12 a Final Four team. Maybe two. Yeah, why not? You go rewind on the women's side a few years ago when we had two with Oregon State and UW. But it's crazy to me, and I don't know if it hit you at a certain point as a sports fan. And obviously, you were invested. I went to Fordham. We weren't necessarily thinking about the NCAA tournament. Gonzaga, you guys were thinking about a national championship. Yeah. Obviously, feel for the student athletes and the fans and the coaching staffs that put all this hard work and invest all this time in. But Thursday, it's a mad dash for me to get back home. Like at one point I'm considering, do I even drive home? Because you don't really know, hey, should I get on a plane? Should I not? I flew and it was fine. But the next day I woke up and, I open up my iPad and the first thing I see is the bracket, right? And it's got my handwritten notes. And then I open up my laptop, which I'm using right now. And it's like my preview packet and my research. And it hit me Friday morning. I'm like, man, like we don't get a payoff. Like, how many hours did we spend watching? How many hours did these kids spend training? All these fans that were going there, the coaching stage, it's mind boggling to me. And the macro view is, it's the right call. Health and safety is first and foremost, but at least in that moment right after, because you don't know 2 weeks ago that this is really what it's going to be. And we're all going to be, shelter in place and the virus is spreading all over. But, in that moment on Friday, it hit me. I was like, wow, like this is legit. And I was a little sad that morning. I'm like, man, like basketball, like the NCAA tournament, like this is awesome. And we're not going to have it. And that was a little devastating.
Sure. You mentioned it. Obviously your first response, your heart goes out to all the student athletes, especially the seniors who had their almost, I don't want to say careers ruined, but they had their special season, their senior season cut way short, dramatically short. But then, as the minutes turn into hours, maybe even a day, you start to think about your coworkers. And anyone watching this understands how big of a role freelancers play in sports broadcasting. So I imagine your heart then immediately went out to them in this time of no one knows really anything.
Yeah, no doubt. You're 100% right. I've actually been in contact with, a lot of our crew over the last, week or so, just to kind of check in on them and just the uncertainty around it. Even to take it a step further, incomes. I just saw, this morning the jobs loss. We were at, unemployment was at a low time, a really good low before this all transpires. We're talking about 3 million plus jobs. Now people are out of work and it's sad, and small businesses. And Jack, I know, all of us are making those trips to the grocery store and hopefully not doing much more than that, or maybe a walk outside. But I'm walking downtown San Francisco, or I'm driving to the grocery store, and I'm thinking to myself, like, all these small businesses, like these things aren't going to survive. I don't know how you do survive, especially in a city like this where rents are so significant. It is catastrophic. I think there's no other way to describe what we're dealing with right now.
All right. So let's try to get positive.
Okay, yeah.
What's your day-to-day look like? You guys are still cranking out content.
We are. So we're just launching now a brand new podcast, which is going to be coming up in the next couple of days or so. And we had been sort of changing and tweaking our model, Jack, the last couple of years, where we've been doing some 15-minute shows. There's one show called Playlist, which is kind of a recap of the day's events, news, stories, and headlines. So we are bringing Playlist back. Yesterday was the first one. We're going to be doing it 2 days a week, taking some interviews from around the conference. And the league obviously has significant ties to Olympians, not only athletes, but actually when we finish up a little bit later today, Dave Durden, who's the head swimming coach at Cal, 3 straight, conference championships. Hell, the Natties were supposed to happen for them last week. You could have said, or they were supposed to actually happen now. We should be talking about them winning a national championship. Well, he's also Team USA's swim coach, and obviously the IOC, the Olympic Committee, everyone the postponement I think is really going to alter the Olympic path for a lot of people. So I'm going to talk to him, and you talk about dedication, right, for student athletes. I mean, Jack, think about if you are in your early 30s trying to make one last push in the Olympics, or maybe get a couple more medals as your swan song. You postpone this thing for a year.
Unreal.
That's a game changer. I don't think people realize how significant that is for those rosters.
2 more questions before I give you a chance to burn Jason Barrett and our SportsCenter anchor bracket. It's kind of a macro question, kind of a tough question,
Sure.
Put you on the spot, but is there a silver lining in the industry? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but a year from now that we learn from this?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. I would say, one, we saw the business changing the last couple of years, right? I mean, there's this big push to short form and digital media, and we weren't exactly sure what all these rights that are going to be coming up over the next couple of years, like how do you manufacture, content, and where does that content live? And I think now all of a sudden we are forced. I mean, you watch every single network pretty much on television, and it's solo anchor right now in the studio, and he's going out to people that have, pictures of their family and plants in the background.
I like the messy bed. I identify with the reporters who are going with the messy bed. That's relatable.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't know if I would do that, but I've strategically placed myself where I am right now in my small 720 square foot apartment in San Francisco. But I think to me it's the ability to, and I think we're going to learn this over the next couple weeks and maybe months. Like, how do you create content? How does that content creation actually look, and the execution of it? And I think you're going to see more. I mean, you and I are using Zoom right now. Like, is that not only like the hottest stock in the market right now, but everyone keeps referencing Zoom. A few years ago, Skype and FaceTime and the whole thing. And it's just, I think there are new avenues now that we are going, and new workflows that are going to come from this. And it's something we're dealing with at Pac-12 Network, right? Like I can do an interview with, pick a person, pick an athlete, but the turnaround time, the reliance on Wi-Fi, so 5G, like how important that's going to be, getting rights to edit software. Yeah. I mean, there's all these little things that people don't think about. And I think workflow and execution now is going to change.
Yeah. What's funny, for the last 10 years, we've been so into social media, specifically recently, TikTok and Instagram before that I don't notice a drop off. I'm fine watching reporters broadcast remotely from their room.
Do you spend more time though listening less to what they're saying and looking more at their home surroundings? Because I find myself doing that all the time.
I did for the first 2 days, and you can tell there's definitely people that are showing off, that people that are like stacking books behind themselves.
For sure. You don't read those.
or wine decanters that they'll never.
No, that's legit though. But that's legit. Like that's like the one thing that hasn't moved on the book. Like those are, I mean, the glasses come off and the decanter that's in frequent use, man. That's close to the kitchen side. So
but overall it's fine. Like if it's good content, I'm going to pay attention to it. Finally, you're cooped up. You're a big Barry's boot camp guy. For those of you who aren't in the city that has Barry's boot camp, it's just a class you go and the instructor kicks your ass to keep you in shape. What are you doing now? P90X? Say P90X.
No, God, I didn't even think it. Oh yeah, man. I was going to say you're going to drop like a Zumba class on online. Heartbroken, man. I mean, that's an outlet for me. And I know I'm not alone in that. I think everyone has something that they like to do when they leave. That's obviously, I love doing it. It clears my head and the whole thing. Occasionally I'll get some runs on the Embarcadero by the water, and kind of just, you see the line and you go, hey, do I need to go and start fading a little bit so I'm more like 6 feet away from people? And, if a dude's on his bike coughing, I like kind of hold my breath as I'm like striding through it for a little bit. I got to imagine I'm not alone, but it's a weird time, man. It really is.
Okay, Mike Yam, former SportsCenter anchor himself, you have a little bit of an issue with
Oh,
our
man.
website. What do
All
you
right.
got?
So JB, I know, handle business, you guys, Jason puts together this awesome bracket and it looks great. Can I just say that my pick, and I've been voting for him because I think he was misseeded. In my mind, as a person, as a human being, he's a top line guy, but Kevin Connors, I think he was a 12 seed. Are you kidding me, Jason? The dude never makes mistakes on air, and take it from me because I worked with him and I've been on set with him. He never makes mistakes. He's one of the most likable human beings you will ever meet. And one of the most genuine people. So if anyone just based off of the seeds is looking for an upset, my guy, Kevin Connors, no doubt should be going all the way to a national championship. He's a top line guy. He'd be like your Gonzaga team, Jack. And you'd love him if you knew.
Late 90s Gonzaga, back when we were a double-digit seed. We haven't been a double-digit seed in quite some time.
That's fair. That's
Mike
fair.
Yam of the Pac-12. Mike, thanks for the time. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yo, you rock, man. Good to see you in person, too. Or not in person, at least see your face. You know where I'm going with that.
I got it.